Okay.
I
I'd
was waiting
play.
for the countdown. Anyway, look, hey everybody, this is Dadpod. This is my boy Lex. This is my boy Sam Long right here. I've been waiting 2 damn years to get this guy on this fucking Dadpod. Clearly, we are not
First
as
time meeting this little boy right here.
what do you call it? We're not electron. What'd you say earlier? Electronic computer savvy. And we're not that
Yeah.
great at this. This Zoom shit is brand new to me. But anyway,
Hey,
I've
we
been
figured
wanting
it
my.
out.
Yeah, we got it right. That's all that matters. That's what men do. Eventually, figure that shit out. Might take three of us, but I mean, we figured it out. But anyway, so with this dad pod, like this time, first time Sam coming on, uh, I want to talk like I was trying to briefly do it a minute ago, but let's start with that emotional intelligence. I was telling him a minute ago there's been some scenarios in our small town of Blythe. Sam used to live here in Blythe, uh, where these kids are getting younger and younger and they shooting people. Right? There's a couple high school scenarios they shooting people, and we're talking about raising kids. Whether I got multiple sons, I got a daughter, but trying to teach them emotional intelligence. Like where is there anything you can think of? Because right, we've dealt with our own kind of emotional things and stuff, but like, is there any things you can think of that you for sure do with yours? Like, is there anything that just or when you had them, you knew like I got to do it this way.
I mean, for me, it's like the most important thing is teaching them that their own individual people and how their own emotions are their own and trying to make sure that they like understand them. As somebody who doesn't necessarily understand emotions that well, it can be something that's difficult for me. Like I don't always connect
Absolutely.
with my kids on an emotional level. But what I've tried to do is to find ways that I can, like playing games. Like
Yes.
at the end of the day, I ain't gonna let you win unless it's like, listen, we've raced 1,000 times at this point. If I want to win that, I definitely
Yeah.
can. But every now and then,
Yeah.
you know,
just
dad
yeah,
got to
get a
get a
little hype.
flat.
That's super funny.
Dad got to get a little. Dad got to get a little flat tire.
It made me think of well, like you're saying with the games and connecting and stuff. There's a couple things like that, whether it was a game or a movie or something my son told me with friends. And he tells me, and I'm kind of like, cool. And his expectation is for me to be like, so I had to kind of break down, like, Mike, I'm not eight either. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Right.
older, like, so it doesn't excite me as much. But I'm glad you're excited. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And as far as like how we're saying with emotional stuff, I don't feel like I ever had like, oh, this when I have kids, But with the way I was raised, the way my dad was, one of them for sure with me was to find another way than yelling. I feel like I yelled at all the time. My dad, Mr. Marine, and I'm like it was so much, and it just I've already known from so many experiences. Yelling doesn't always work. Not everybody can take that kind of talk, right? And it doesn't motivate everybody. Not to say
No,
right,
absolutely.
so not to say I won't
No,
get on
you're
my kid's ass, but you know what I mean.
no 100%. And similar to like you, like one thing that I try not to do is yell at my kids. I definitely have like,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's like for the right reason. And like I remember when Scarlett, my daughter, I was trying to teach her to ride a bike because listen, we ain't a training wheels family. We ain't doing that. I'm not for that. She was like 5, 6 years old. I got her a bike. Here it is. We're gonna go out, and I live on a boardwalk, so it's kind of like there's people coming and going.
Constant,
So
constant.
like I get it. Like it's like a little bit more of a challenge, but I was like, listen, this is where you live. This is what you got to deal with if you're gonna ride a bike. Just like if you're gonna learn to drive a car, you got to learn to drive a car on the road in the place you live at. People are like, there were some people on the boardwalk that were like, I can't believe you're doing this. Why wouldn't you take her to a flat patch of grass? And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
because she don't live on a flat patch of grass.
hmm You know, and I mean, I'm not trying to
This is
interrupt,
where she lives.
but like with what you're saying, right? This is again with like this channel, the Dad Pod, and like my other one, Pain and Smiles, that I made. The whole point of it is to discuss things like this that men do differently. Because even to what you're saying, like it resonates with me. It doesn't bother me. It don't hurt my feelings. That sounds like fucking normal shit, right? But to mostly women and to a little more sensitive men, or that affects them, that bothers them. But same thing like we were kind of talking earlier. The generation we were raised in was that way. Toughen up. And of course, we've seen some of that does not translate correctly. You can't always say suck it up. You can't. But
Absolutely.
but like you're
Because
saying,
be, Right. But like that's what I was getting to. Like on the boardwalk, I was like, listen, you just got to get up and you got to pedal. You got to get up and you got to pedal. I was like, that's where you just got to believe in yourself. That's what you got to do. And
Absolutely.
I was like, listen, this ain't. I was like, this ain't working.
Hmm.
So what I started to do was like, listen, stop playing games with me. You know damn well you could get on this bike and you could do more than 3 steps. And I started getting
Yeah, yeah.
behind her and I started getting on her and I started pushing her. And like what I realized, the only thing that ended up happening was that she still didn't know how to ride the bike and she had tears coming down her eyes. And all I could do was look at her and like take a step back and say, like, hey, I'm sorry. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
I want you to understand. I want you to understand that I'm trying to teach you to ride a bike. And what I was doing right now, being hard on you, that was just a strategy. And it
Yes.
clearly didn't work.
And like you said,
And it
yes.
was the
Yeah.
wrong way. And I'm sorry
Yes.
that I came at you this way. And you know
And,
what? We don't need to do it this way anymore. And she
and
looked at
you,
me and she wiped her tears and then we went and guess what? We got her to ride her bike that day. And
that's
I
what I'm
didn't have to
saying.
yell at her no more.
And see, like that too with what you're saying, right? Um, there was moments that my parents might have did that with me, but the majority of growing up, I didn't get that. Like you're saying, I didn't get that apology. I didn't get that. Hey, you know what? I was being, you know what I mean? And so same thing with mine. Just like you're saying, I've had plenty of those moments where I realized that what I was trying didn't work. Right? I apologize, didn't work.
No.
But like you're saying, where you let them know, like I'm being hard because I believe in you. I know you can do this. You know, and that's when I had. It was funny. Me and Franklin were talking about it. But like this, the difference between a mother and a father, right? So same thing. We're raising a son. Your little boy's running across the street. He busts his ass. Right? I wait. Let's see if we can get up. Now, if my son needs him, I'm gonna help him if he needs help. But I bet you get up. Bust his ass real quick. Mama's like, you know, like, that's kind of the difference of things. Well, buddy,
That's fair. I'd say Jennifer's definitely gotten better, like in that regard.
of that kind of
Oh,
thing.
I
Well, I mean,
shouldn't
of
have said
course,
her
it's
name.
it's
Oh
it's
well.
the motherly, instinct. It's the motherly nurturing. That's what they do. Men raise warriors. We raise people that are going to go out there, or at least like Nate or past wise, future or whatever. We were fucking,
But
went
I
out there
gotta,
to
but I,
war.
but I gotta say, Jennifer is she's tapped in and she's in tune with her kids,
Yeah.
and she's a very smart woman. So like when there are concerns, she's like on top of that. So like I
Well,
gotta give her
well,
that
like
credit.
you know, I'm
Sometimes
I'm definitely
does
not
she
a
go overboard? In my
yeah. Well,
opinion,
all women do,
absolutely.
and that's yeah. That's what I'm
I'm
kind of
not
saying
gonna
with.
make I'm not gonna make that generalization.
But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, with this, because I've had John and Shields a couple times when I'm talking, they'll like try to cut me off and like, what do you like save me from whatever I said? Like, oh, we don't mean this, or like, no, I said what I meant. But like,
You said what you
I,
said.
I'm never ever trying to bash women. I'm never discrediting what they do because same thing in mine. There's plenty of things she does where I'm just like, but like you said, there's so much things she does that I could never do something that my wife does, right? But it's like, again, I'm not trying to bash women in any way, but I'm trying to give this space right here for dads to just discuss what dads do. Dads do shit differently. Dads are dads. Dads are not
Absolutely.
mothers. You know what I mean? We're not mothers. We're dads. And I like this because we get the opportunity to maybe show mothers or other dads this is why we did what we did. This is why we thought what we thought. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of times never discussed. And especially relationships, it just turns into
Absolutely.
argument. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're not wrong. It's like I've done
Yeah.
things that like my ex-wife does not appreciate. But guess what?
Yeah.
Listen, I got taught to swim by here my mom, who was one of the craziest persons that I've ever met.
Mad funny.
She just like I got taught to swim by here's a push, sink or swim.
Yeah, she's
And
funny.
uh, and again, like I tried that approach
That's
with my daughter especially because
hilarious.
she needed a little push and it backfired. It was like
Yeah.
she did not respond the way I did. She
you
sank.
know, I swear to you, well, with some of the stuff we're talking about already, I tell people often, I'm so thankful that with me doing music that I became like a producer, right? Because I got to run into so many personalities over all these years, recording people, right? The ego or whatever you want to call it. But it helps me learn like that to deal, right? Some people really need that. Motherfucker, use trash. Get this shit going. And some people fold with that. While some others really like maybe they didn't do too much at all today, but they did more than they normally do. Like, hey man, hell yeah, look, you got it. You can do that, right? So that a lot of that with the producing and learning how to deal with different personalities, once I finally really got into it with my kids like that, it was like, wow, I was able to kind of take from scenarios and learn, okay,
I
that kind
will
of stuff
say
again.
there was a time when I used to feel tapped in like that. But I've
Mm-hmm.
told you, like in the past over text and things like that, I don't feel like that tapped in like I used to be. Like there was some change. And like, for me, I've got my own mental health issues. And it's like, I got to worry about that with my kids. But it's also
Yeah.
like, what is the treatment that I'm going through? How has it modified me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not feeling those connections like I did. Am I any better now?
One of them, I think, well, like with what you're saying, and we kind of talked about it before too, like, being disconnected. You're, not on social media very much. You don't really see what's kind of going on with a lot of people or whatever. That I would say was one. And especially with like, because I remember how it used to be for sure. You could walk in a room and didn't even have to talk to anybody. You could right away, like, that person's going through some shit. Like, it was fucking weird. And, but like that, right? It's just like anything, practice. If you don't do it, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe he was the best fucking swimmer in the world, but if you ain't jumping in a pool in 10 years, like, what do you think is going to happen? You know what I mean? It's going to feel unnatural, not normal. And so even more so with what we're doing here, this could easily be a start to get you back to, oh my gosh, but I've always been this way. You know what I mean? Like I've always been able to talk or like shit. I was just telling my wife, I was thinking about like rock and win. Remember that? In
Yeah.
right, stuff like that, right? We similar. Me and John were talking about some of the stuff too, like us all as friends or whatever. Our roles have changed over time. Like John back in the day, right? He would always stick up for me, fight for me, or whatever. And now as we got older, like I haven't been in a fight since I've been an adult, but even you, if you was around, I promise you would see it real fast. Like, holy shit, like I'm all for the hands, like all the time. Like say motherfucker, like not with us, you know what I mean? One of them other kind of people. You act a certain way, we gonna challenge it. I mean, it never happens, and even then I try to back off. People are crazy nowadays, they'll shoot you, but but I'm talking about like the way roles change sometimes, with all of us. And then back to kind of how you're saying with the mental health thing, right? I literally was I was just having this conversation with one of my coworkers, Butler. My wife had to tell me a few times too, because I was kind of tripping, but I'm very emotional, and I don't feel like I should be emotional sometimes. Like I'll cry. I'll watch Shark Tank and start crying, like because I'm so happy that these motherfuckers made it. Like
Why
this
not?
motherfucker, like
Yeah, but
well, but again, like men, right? As a man, I felt like that's sissy, that's girl, like whatever. But so I'm kind of telling this shit to my wife, and she goes, you ever see one of those videos where it's like a baby, and the mom singing to the baby, and the baby cries? She's like, you ever think maybe you was one of those kind of kids, like you're like they're saying, in touch, in tune with emotions in a further level than other people are, right? And so that definitely helped,
you've
I guess,
always
me,
been somebody
you
that,
know,
like, since I've known you, I remember, like, in seventh grade, we had, Mrs. Steiner, and
yeah.
she had, like, put a poem book together.
Oh, that's how I got there. Yeah,
And,
I was in the Miss
and
Vegas
you
class.
had,
Yeah, no, I was in Miss Vegas. I did a good poem, and she sent me to Miss Steiner's because she was like, yeah, I was good like that or whatever. But it was about emotion. But God, what the hell is saying? Because now I'm
so,
saying think
like,
about that poem, but
you, but you, but you've always been somebody that was, like, in tune with, I'm not going to say necessarily the emotions that you were feeling, but you were in tune with the fact that these emotions were available. And
yeah,
like from a very young age, you were able to like tap in. And as you've gotten older, as somebody that's a musician, you've learned to tap into these
yeah,
things, and
yeah,
you've also connected that ability with your own life to say like, this is how I'm actually going to channel these things that are going
figured out,
on
yeah,
with me. I will actually use my music to tap into that. That's
so
something that like, that's definitely something that like I used to have like with people and connecting with people and especially making people laugh.
and so
But
well,
it's
like with
been
what
like,
you're saying,
it's been a while since like I've had that like, I'm gonna tap in and connect the inner with the outer.
and so like that, right, with what you're saying, and how we're saying with the mental health and stuff, right? Same thing. I went through my own, and honestly, shit, we hadn't even got talked about it. I remember when I talked to you about it a little bit. You were like, "Wait, what?" Right? You went through this
Right.
or taking this medicine, right? But like with that, right? I've that's kind of where I was starting with this whole emotional thing. I was telling my coworker, right? That's the whole concept of the bipolar, right? Last week I was at work, like I hate
Right,
this
because
job.
we should back up. Both
I
of us
hate this
are
job,
bipolar.
right? Yeah. So that's where a lot of the up and down emotion goes, right? So last week I'm at work and I'm like legitimately like I hate this place. This is the most negative job I've ever been in my life. It's kind of ruining my life with my family. It makes me depressed. And then the last 2 days I was at work, I'm like, I can't believe I get paid to be here. I just fucking love this place. It's fucking so easy, like right. And like we're saying, the back and forth emotions. So with how you're saying with connecting with people and stuff like that, uh, when I guess a couple years ago, I guess when I was really kind of going through the mental thing or whatever with myself, right? I've always been really outgoing. It's easy for me to talk to anybody. You know what I mean? Same with you. I mean, I can be around anybody. It's easy, but it wasn't like it just wasn't anymore, and I didn't know why. I like it was so weird. I almost got like anxiety when there was too many people. I don't know you guys. I don't like. It was weird, and then finally I
I
remember,
know
going
exactly
to
how you
sleep,
feel.
and so that's what I mean. Well, that's kind of what's going with you. There was finally the moment where my wife's kind of like, you need to come to this place, hang out, da 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 da. And we get there, same thing. I'm kind of tripping at first. Then after a while, I'm like, I do know a couple of people, so I go talk, whatever. And then it was like, I was still nervous, but it was starting to get like, okay, I remember this feeling, right? Everybody likes me. Every time I talk, everybody likes me. They say the same thing with making people laugh. I'm not never trying to be funny. I just be honest, and people like laugh because I'm fucking honest, right? So stuff like that. It started to get me there, and then again back with like this podcast, both of them, the Paint a Smile, all these, and even just again, John comes a lot, Shields comes. I have people come around, but being able to have these kind of conversations and talk, that's how you start to get in tune with things again. You know what I mean? And I hope that's what will start to happen with you, or even right, like anything, any good idea, right? Any good idea that you have or you hear, what happened? You go tell somebody. You know what I mean? If we talk about some good subject right here, maybe tomorrow you go run to somebody, man, me and my buddy was just talking about, right? It always goes, and that's how, you know what I mean? So it's like stuff like this. Maybe we won't be in
Absolutely.
tune
And
today,
that's
but
like but like that, absolutely. And just like again, like we did some of this. We're online now, but we did some of this like pre-recording. We've been talking for a while trying to figure this shit
yeah,
out.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there was some back and forth to get us up to this point. And it
yeah.
was like I was telling you that I had been feeling disconnected. But then all of a sudden I talked to my aunt, and like the issue of like Jimmy got brought up, and that was like a big thing, and how like my initial reaction to like, and I'm sorry to say, to like certain mental health crises that are going on now, like this Tino guy, don't know him, but like
I'm moving. I'm what?
having anger, having more anger in the beginning, that there was such an overwhelming positive response from Blythe for this person that I didn't know. Well, my brother, who suffered the same fate, also didn't receive what I
Right,
believe he should have,
right.
because he was a bedrock of this community. Like people that knew Jimmy remember him as being on the varsity team, climbing up the gate.
Hell
We
yeah.
got heart. What you got?
Goofy ass.
Always being
Lost his
there,
damn voice.
being being there for his
Right.
friends. He was the most loyal person that you could ever meet. But sadly, I mean, there were certain like, all right, had to take a step back and respect where the family was coming from, and the fact that they wanted to be private. And although it wasn't something that I necessarily agreed with, at the end of the day, it was like, this is their position. And
Mm-hmm.
if that's their position, then I support them. And in hard times, that's what family does.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like,
Man,
in
damn
both
hair on my mouth.
situations, what should have happened did happen. What wanted to be private was kept private, and what wanted to be celebrated was celebrated.
Yeah. With all that kind of talk, and again, going back to the kids, trying to do the dad pod, these kind of things, definitely we do these topics on the Paint a Smile for sure. And absolutely, that's honestly the one I think
Well,
you're gonna
I feel
take on
like
too.
but I also feel like discussing these things and going through these things and getting to the bottom of them is part of being a dad. Like,
Oh,
because we
absolutely.
do
I'm
have
not.
feelings.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying that way. I'm just saying some of these subjects, I guess, we would definitely go even further in on the separate podcast. But that's what I was saying. I was trying to
Right,
circle
right.
it back around with this. Like you're saying, it is part of being dad. So with some of the stuff we've been through, same, Tisha, right? We can go with a lot of lists, with a lot of things we've already been through. That's what I'm saying again with our kids and emotional intelligence, right? I've talked with my kids about suicide. I've talked with them about that, right? Because I mean, probably every American almost on the planet at some point has probably debated or thought about it to an extent. But how many people get to writing a letter? How many people get to really attempting? How many people really get to that part, right? And what takes you there? And so with some of that, that's what I'm saying with my kids. I've had those conversations where there's nothing that should get you to that point, right? There's no way,
I
like
think
if you,
that's something that you should communicate to your kids. And to be honest, like given as much like as I've had experience with it, that's like something that I should be better at communicating with them. Like, listen, there's nothing worth that. Like,
yeah, yeah, and yeah. So I had to, I've done multiple times with both my kids, and like even more so my daughter because she's 16. It's not like that she's feeling that way or whatever, but same thing. She's at that age where you start to get
well, you're
influenced
still a
a lot,
parent, and you got to be
100%.
proactive.
And but even her, and like that's one I guess where like my daughter, she'll sit in her room all day every day, quite often. So the fuck did I at 16? I wasn't depressed. I just didn't want to be it. I'm a fucking teenager. I want to be myself, right? But like that, I have to check up on her, confirm all that, But I'm
You had
saying,
that blue room. I don't know how you
you
spent
know,
all day on that room.
I know, man. My dad
That
still
light
used to
was
get pissed on me.
terrible.
The light was terrible.
The light was
And he's the one that told me to buy it. I'll never forget that. That motherfucker told me to buy it. He said, "Ain't no kid,
terrible.
ain't no other kid gonna have that light." And then he yelled at me after I get it. This light's so stupid, you can't see shit. But anyway, I said, talking to my kids, right?
Oh,
So when Jimmy with that, I told him exactly what it was, all that. But those kind of concepts, like where, like even my daughter with boys, right? She's already had a couple scenarios. They meant too much to her already. Like, why? You was with this motherfucker for 2 months, right? And I was laughing at Tisha. I'll never forget Tisha because I remember she kicked me out of her car. We was in her car smoking, and fucking she some. Oh, he's my world. I said, Tisha, this is your third world this month. Like, like right? High school. That's high school,
Keisha
right?
was a very amorous person, I will say.
Yeah,
More so, more
I
so than
remember she,
most. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
she kicked me the fuck out of her car. She said, get out of that car. Come on. But anyway, that's just it. That kind of shit. My daughter has had some of those kind of moments, and I try to get you don't even
But
understand.
that's like the sweet part about being young is that each one
100%,
does mean so much.
100%.
And it's like
Well,
you wanna like play the balance of like, yeah, I get it, but also move the fuck on.
and so yeah, and that's what I'm saying with the whole concept like suicide, right? At least for my daughter wise, at the moment, boys would be her toughest, most depressing type of thing, right? Kind of concept, I guess, that she's kind of going through. So a lot of times, and I always quite a bit of podcasts and things I've said where I am thankful for this, but my daughter gets confused, right? Like with me and my wife, she sees certain things and she's always like, "Oh, I wish, da da da." And it's like, you don't see the behind the scenes, you don't see all the arguments or the fighting we did to keep this. You know what I mean? And it's like even now, where I try to explain to my daughter, like I can't even name a person that's still with the person they was with in high school, and a few I did know that married him, they're not together no more. You know what I'm saying? So high school isn't the
Yeah.
end result. You know what I mean? So if high school is not the end result, then in the sense of like something being so serious to end your life, then that's what I mean. That's where we should be at. Like, because life moves on. You know,
No,
right?
absolutely. And that's a good point. And like that's something like I'm glad that we had this conversation because I feel like yeah, like I've experienced enough suicide at this point
Yeah,
to be like, it's a real possibility.
yeah. I'm saying, yep.
And like, that's a weird thing. I guess it is to be a dad because like you pick and choose. Like it's important for my kids to be like super open and understanding. So like there was a time when I told the kids like you had a gay uncle and like I'm talking like 90s gay, like died of AIDS gay. And like there was an incident like and because I wanted them to just be like cool and like let them know this was my experience. He was my favorite uncle. There was a time when like this
Oh
was like
shit.
90s AIDS when it was like should he even be allowed to be around him? Is it like contagious? It was like during that whole
Oh
thing.
yeah. The real shit.
Yeah.
It was real.
So like I talked to the kids about that, and then all of a sudden they're talking about AIDS in school, and Jameson says I don't need to worry about getting AIDS. The only way you can get AIDS is if you're gay, and I'm like, that's not what I meant. And
And
so it's like it's funny. It's funny how like you try to teach a lesson
yeah,
to be like, all right, and like he still was like he didn't say there was anything wrong with being gay. He
yeah.
just like end of the day
Well, like with that, like
misunderstood where I
agree.
was
Like
coming from.
yes, with stuff like that, right? Because I've had a few of those with my son for sure too.
Oh, damn.
And like that, yeah, when it happens, and same thing, teacher say whatever, and it comes back, I'm like, all right, man, fuck, you gotta miss what I meant, but
Hold
and
on.
then I'll explain again.
I gotta
But like
figure
with
this out. My
okay,
headphones died.
oh shit, you can't hear me then? Can you hear
And
me?
then oh, I figured it out.
I'm like, we only got
My
like eight
headphones
minutes
died.
left anyway. We only got 8 minutes left anyway.
I
We
mean,
don't
I
got the
feel like
paid. We don't got the paid version.
we've been going on like
But
a manic rant.
like, and that's like that's kind of what I was telling you. You know, this is your first one, but like I said, we got so many other ones that once John fucking edits them, we'll post them so you can see. But a lot of them are just like this. The only difference is, John and Shields are next to me. But we have so many. We always just try to get bullet points, and then we'll just ramble. Because again,
Well,
this is
it's like I figured this was like a trial run, and like
nah,
while
I'm
we
keeping
got the
this shit.
time,
Nah, I'm keeping
yeah,
this
yeah.
shit.
Well, like
I'm gonna
while we
edit
got
and
the
post this,
time, it's
bud.
like I feel like
Yeah,
we were like all over the place, but I also like I was trying to like when you were talking, I was trying to like, all right. It was like I wasn't just it was like playing the game. I was trying to be like, all right, when should I jump in?
yeah,
Sometimes you are just gonna have to interrupt.
yes,
Sometimes you're
yes,
gonna have to
yes.
take a step back. Like and
With that,
I was trying to figure out our vibe, like what we were gonna like where are we gonna settle?
with that too, I swear to God, man. With fucking John, I had to tell him a couple times. I said, bro, you don't get the key when I'm trying to tell you to shut the fuck up. Like that. Like
Right.
I'm like, all right, yeah, oh, I'm trying to like, can't like, all right, it's time for you've been right. Let me go, and he'll just keep going and go. We had this one podcast. He talked for like 10 minutes straight. Nobody else. Like that's when you should just do your own video, bro.
Yeah. I feel like it's a conversation. And this is why I
That's
love
fun.
conversation. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, conversation, you always been a good dancer. I never been a good dancer. But you know what? I talked to a lot of people and up until recently, I was always like I always thought I was an expert conversationalist, but then there was a time when in my first job, like my first accounting job, which buddy was not a great fit.
I
It
remember you
like
telling.
but I was like, but it was like awesome because I worked with people from China. I worked with like this Indian from South Africa. But I was talking to her and she was my boss, and she was like, "What are you going to do in this meeting?" I was like, "Listen, don't worry about the meeting. I got this. I'm an expert conversationalist." And I was always very good at meetings, but she was like, "No, you're not." And I was like, "Shut up. Yes, I am." And like I still think about that to this day, and I realized what she was saying. I was always very good at talking, but I wasn't always very good at the back and forth, like listening and like asking questions and like
Absolutely, I
probing.
know what you're saying. Because with that, right? Me, you, and John have all been really good at talking and stuff like that. But hands down, at least in my eyes, I'm way further along than both of you with understanding when to cut it, keep going, stop. Right? 'Cause same thing, like especially podcasts. I'm very good. I can keep this conversation going forever. But a lot of times like that, I'll ramble and I'll wait. I catch myself. I'll pause, hoping somebody jump in. You know what I mean? But I'm like, for sure, you and John. I mean, you're much better than he is. I swear. You got to watch some of these ones being put out. Yeah, it's hilarious. But I'm saying like that. Just like you said, as far as like friendship goes, the way we always grew up our whole life, there was nobody else watching, so we didn't have to shut up. No, we could ramble for long as fuck we wanted to ramble. You know what I mean? So like you said, now we're all trying to learn to adjust to still be how we are, but also make it viewable. Because too, I want to make these
Absolutely. At
downloadable.
the end of the day, it's like I don't want to just. I'm not tuning in to just hear your perspective, and I'm
Yeah, yeah,
also like they're like I don't want it to be late night hosty where like Jimmy Fallon got the guy that sits on the couch. It's like,
Yeah.
listen, I ain't here. I ain't here to be the guy on the couch. If I'm gonna do this, it's because it's like, listen, there may be times where I take the step back, but again, it's always making sure we're doing this thing for like, and I feel like doing it for viewers, like, I feel like doing it organically rather than doing it because that's what people want to hear, but actually like
Yes.
trying to like be invested in the conversation and like,
Yeah.
all right, let me be tuned in to like
Yeah. Really get
what
down
this
to it.
person's got going on, and I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like
That's what this
there
was
were
for.
like a few times you brought up the pain and smiles thing, and I was like, okay, like I get he thinks I'm talking too much, like mental health. Let me like connect it.
I see. Yeah. And I guess I really am like that a lot because I really do have, that other channel just hasn't started and went as much as his dad pod is, but there's quite a bit of things that I've talked about on Dad Pod that, like you said, it absolutely has to do with being a father. But on the other podcast, I feel like I would want to go in more depth on that. Rather than like, right, some of the mental health things we did, I kept tying it back to kids. Where on the other one, I don't have to tie it to kids. Let's just talk about, you know what I
Right.
mean? So that's kind of the only difference. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end this right
No,
now. We got three
like
minutes. Uh, so this was a Dad Pod at Sam Blon. This minus came me. Oh, we never know. We got to start calling you Elmo again. But anyway, Sam, it was nice talking to you, man. I'll hit you up tomorrow when John gets here. We'll try to do a triple one. All three of us.
I got to sit tomorrow again.
God damn, I'm bad. My memory's not good. I remember what I remember for like a whole minute. And then
It's all right.
Tuesday, fucker, Tuesday.
Listen, I'm here to
God
set
damn.
that boundary.
You probably told me that 5 fucking times tonight. Jesus Christ. Oh, excuse me, dude.
You're excited.
I am. I'm excited. Fucking works. I'm like, as soon as I get off this, I'm gonna download it, record it, and then see how I can edit it right now. Then I'll probably send it to you damn email tonight. But all right, then Sam, I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you Tuesday probably. But of course, always can text. You know what I mean?
All right, sounds good.
All right, brother. Peace.